The Trek Geeks Podcast Network and the Divine Treasury are proud to have Fansets as its presenting sponsor. Stay tuned for a special discount code worth 10% off your order at fansets.com. Fansets, our pins have character.
This episode is also sponsored by Science Division, the makers of the world's first interactive Tribble. Stay tuned for a special discount code to bring a Tribble into your home today. Science Division. Trouble's never been this fun.
The Divine Treasury is made of pure latinum.
From the Tactical Training Center at Podfleet Command, this is your premier Star Trek collectibles podcast, The Divine Treasury. I am Mike Bovia, and I am joined by collector and OCD aficionado, Jamie Rogers. How are you, Jamie?
Good. You're finding new ways to describe my craziness, aren't you?
I got to do something. I got to sound like Bill Smith on these openings here.
Don't try too hard.
Yeah, I know. So I say the Tactical Training Center, which will get called into play later as we visit with our guest. But yeah, it's definitely necessary to have that tactical center at Podfleet Command with some of the personalities here on the network. So one of the things we like to do is get into the new merchandise that is on the market for this upcoming period of time when we have released the episode. So we do have a few things that either are on the market now or coming out. And one of them is something that I know is very near and dear to Jamie's heart.
I don't know if I'm actually going to get this collection, but it is pretty interesting. The Star Trek Universe, the official Starships collection has been announced. So what this basically is going to replace that Star Trek Discovery only series, and it's going to basically encompass all the series that have been taking place: Picard, Discovery, Strange New Worlds. Obviously, if there's a Section 31 show coming out as well, it's going to encompass all those ships. The first two ships have been announced. It is the La Serena and the Zheng He. I will say this, that La Serena looks very, very good, and I think it would look very good on one of your shelves, Mr. Mike.
Well, I was going to say, I am definitely looking at getting that. And what I would probably have to do is get it and put it up next to a picture of Eddie Van Halen, because it definitely makes me reminisce of Eddie's Frankenstein guitar with its paint design.
Oh, yeah. Looks just like, that color scheme looks just like it, actually.
Yeah. Now, I have to take issue with something you just said there when you said you aren't sure if you're going to get it. Now, maybe you're not going to subscribe to the entire set, but I know that if it is something that has come from Star Trek Picard, that you're going to pick it up.
Mike, let's not go down this route. I'm trying to, I got to stop somewhere, but yeah, you're probably right. I probably will get it eventually. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. All the other times I've said I'm not going to get something, I always end up giving in. So we'll see what happens with this one.
That's right. When I first told you about fan sets, you said, I don't know if that's for me. And now you're way down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Or autograph cards.
That's true. That's so true. So the other thing that's coming out, and it's long-term release here. So we're probably not talking about until October, November, but we've already started to get a new look at the calendar line for Star Trek for 2022. And of course they have their ships of the line, but then there's a lot of breakdown for the different series. So TNG is going to get its own calendar next year, most likely because of it being the 35th anniversary They'll get their own special calendar. TOS is getting its own calendar. Discovery, Star Trek Picard will be getting its own 2022 calendar. Of course, the ever popular Star Trek Cats is getting its own calendar. And then 2022 will also have the daily calendar, the tear off page calendar, that will give you something new every day to look at. And finally, something from Fansets that as a network we're proud to be partnered with on this particular promo. So Fansets is looking for listeners to the Trek Geeks Podcast Network and the Divine Treasury to help vote on the next Women of Trek pin. So they have already released the complete Series 1. Series 2 is about ready to wrap up this year. So they're looking to get a beginning on Series 3. And you not only could help choose that first pin, but you also, by doing that, are entered into a drawing to win a complete master set from Series 2. So all of the pins with the frame and backer, and then also a set of the Series 2 pins. So that is a fantastic value just for stating your opinion. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I actually already did my vote.
So did I.
Who was going to be?
I had to, as much as I love the pins and as much as I had my own thoughts in mind, I had to go to the ruling podcaster of the house, Emily, and get her to voice in her opinion for it. And that's what we went with. So no spoilers. But if you want to vote, go to trekgeeks.com/vote, and you will have all of the particulars as to what you need to do. And you can only vote once. So make sure clearly in mind who it is you want to vote for before you go out there. It's a pretty cool thing that Fansets is doing with us here at the network. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all pans out. All right, so our first section of the show, the greeting of the registrar. And normally what we do here is we find out what is new to our collection. So, Jamie, what have you gotten in the mail lately?
Oh boy, a lot of stuff. So I obviously got the new Star Trek Picard book, Dark Veil. I actually did download it as well from audible.com. So beginning listening to that very shortly once I catch up on some of my other podcasts that I've fallen behind on. That's obviously the book by James Swallow that talks about basically Riker and Troy and some of the things that have happened to them in that Star Trek Picard universe. Some other new things that I've gotten as well. I got a new t-shirt. It's the one that says it's a red shirt one. It says red shirt. I might not make it. I've always wanted to get one of those every time I saw one of those t-shirts at the convention. So I ordered that on bustedtees.com. So awesome website. It's got a lot of interesting pop culture references. So I was able to get that t-shirt along with some other ones, but that was my Star Trek one. I know I recently talked about getting into some of the Funko Pop stuff. So I also recently got into getting the Build-A-Bridge bobbleheads. So I was able to get the Guinan one. She's the one from the 10 Forward one, which is a set of 2. But I got her. I also got Troy, Wesley Crusher, and Dr. Crusher. Basically the 3 easiest from the Build-A-Bridge set to get. I got those 3. So
I don't know if I've heard of this.
Oh, you never
The
seen those before?
Build-A-Bridge set.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
they're all bobbleheads, and like if you get them all, they basically are it's building a bridge of the Enterprise D. So like it has Wesley sitting in, his helm position. You got Data in the con position. So there's 8 in that set. It's basically all the principal cast members with Wesley, number 8. And then there's another set that's basically just like it. It's Guinan and Q. It's the build a 10 forward one. So it's Guinan and Q is the other two. So
is Guinan like this?
No. No, she's basically right behind her little bar there. But so obviously I'm going to try to get some of those. I obviously, like I said, got the 3 easiest ones to get. The Troy, and the 2 Crushers. So we'll see what happens with that.
So if you're supposed to build the bridge, are you going to take them out of the boxes and build
right
the
now?
bridge?
No. Right now they're going to stay in the box. It's actually from the same company. I'm trying to think what the company's name is. I guess Biff Pang.
Oh,
Biff
I've
Bang
seen
Pow.
those.
So they actually also had a Picard and Locutus one that I got a couple of years ago at one of the conventions that I went to. So I had those too, and I always meant to get the Build-A-Bridge and just never got around to it. And so I got that. Obviously also got a fan sets order in. So this time around, I decided to, since obviously my love for the movies, I decided to get some of the movie pins. So I was able to get the Savick, the Khan, the General Chang, the Ilea. And then I also got some of the new pins from Picard. So there was a Hugh pin that I needed. There was a newer Picard pin that I got, a Rios pin. I also got the new style of the Riker pin, the Micro Crew, with the new design.
Yeah, I got that too.
And then I also got a number 1 pin to go along with my Pike and Spock.
Oh, that number one. I thought you were talking about number 1, the dog. No. Since you were on the Picard kick.
Nope. This is number 1. Because I kind of like the little triumvirate there, the little trio of those 3 characters. Especially for the new show. And then the last thing, I over a couple weeks span, I put together the Cinema 2000 collection of autograph cards. Like I said, I put it together relatively quickly. But there's 24 cards in that set, those of autographs, ranging from, it was all from the movies, the original 10 movies, obviously. Love my Patrick Stewart on there. It's a really nice autograph over his white dress uniform. There's actually a Riker autograph card in there with him with no beard from Insurrection. A beautiful George Takei with him as a captain, the captain of the Excelsior. A nice Grace Lee Whitney, a nice Nichelle Nichols in there. So a lot of good cards, a lot of some cards that I had never gotten before. So like Paul Winfield, he's one that I've always wanted to get, Captain Terrell. That I've never seen him in any other of the movie sets. So it was nice to see him in that Cinema 2000 set. So I finally have one of him. And that's pretty much it. What have you got, Mike?
He says with incredible irony. Yeah, so I got myself a new coffee cup, which I really love. It is all of the Enterprises, just the 1701 series. It does not include the NX01. So it's got the original, the refit, then maybe it's not the refit. Maybe it's the original, then the A, B, C, D, and E on it. It's got the Delta. It has the Federation symbol. And then it says, let's make sure that history never forgets the name Enterprise. But I needed a good coffee cup, and it's getting quite a bit of use on my 5 o'clock mornings. And I also got the new Picard book. Unlike Jamie, I've read the whole thing already. I read through it in about 2 days. And actually, I got it late. I had totally forgotten about it. I ended up placing my order late on Amazon, so I got it like 2 or 3 days after its release. But very good book, highly recommended. James Swallow's a great author, and the fact that he had written some of the Titan series works very well in this book because it takes place aboard the Titan with Riker and Troy and their budding family, but also that crew aboard the Titan. So very nice there. I also got 5 autographs from the Discovery Season 2 set. I got Jane Brooke as Admiral Cornwell in her gear from the season 1 finale. Will You Take My Hand, when they're being awarded at Starfleet Command. So she has her awards across her uniform. I picked up Rachel Anchiro as Commander Nan, that autograph, which I got at a fantastic deal because her cards have been flying and they have been wicked expensive. I did not go. So there are some in the set where she does not necessarily personalizations, but quotes. I did not pick up one of those. It's just Nan, and it has her signature on it, but it's a nice card nonetheless. Same thing, picked up a Doug Jones as well as Saru. That's a nice looking card. I picked up a Kenneth Mitchell as Tanavik, the love child of Voke / Tyler and Laurel. And finally, the one that was the nicest out of all of them, and I'll hold it up for Jamie to see, I picked up a Hannah Cheeseman. It is Lieutenant Commander Arium signature card, as well as having a uniform relic on it. That did not go for as much as I thought it was going to go for, which again was something I was very happy with. So all in all, I'm happy with all of those Discovery cards. So Rittenhouse has really done a nice job with the autograph and relic section of the season 2 set for Discovery. I've been very happy with it, and from the looks of it, like we talked about prior, the Picard series it looks like that's gonna be really good as well. So as far as that card set,
yeah, no, I'm real excited for that Picard set. We'd like to take a moment to talk about Fansets, the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks podcast network and the Divine Treasury.
Fansets are a small business that collectors like me and Jamie and all the guests that we have on our show, it's something that we can get behind because while we do love our Star Trek, they have all types of offerings for different kinds of fandoms. They have Scooby-Doo, they have DC Comics, they have Batman 66, which Jamie has put on his shelf, and they have offerings for Harry Potter as well.
But since Star Trek is our sweet spot at the Divine Treasury, we'd love to talk about their over 200 licensed Star Trek pins, from badges to micro crew to anniversary sets to master sets. The Fansets website is a collector's dream. They release new pins on the 1st and 15th of every month. And as mentioned before, they have many new releases in this first quarter, one of them being the Nurse Chapel pin and many other pins in the Woman of Star Trek line, Series 2.
So that Nurse Chapel pin actually got pushed back from January into February. So we're looking forward to that coming out now. They are going to be closing that line out, not that line, but that series out next month as well in March. So we look forward to seeing what that next pin will be. I believe they actually did post it on Twitter, so it's not a spoiler to say that it will be Soji from Picard, Dr. Soji Asha. Another one of the great things that Fansets has put out, we talked about badges. The All Good Things badge is available now from Fansets. And that is, it looks like the Picard badge, except it's in the more goldish hue that there was on All Good Things, and then was used again in Endgame of Voyager, and it was used in Timeless for Geordie LaForge's uniform. So that badge, while it was used for All Good Things, got a workout after that.
As a listener of the show, you can receive 10% off your next order from Fansets by using the code DIVINE at checkout. That's DIVINE at checkout. And remember that you receive free shipping in the U.S. on orders of $30 or more.
Fansets. Our pins have character. And we thank Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of the Divine Treasury and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network.
Where's the Blessed Exchequer?
Well, the next stage of the Divine Treasury is when you get to see the Blessed Exchequer. And on each episode of the Divine Treasury, we're on the lookout for a collector who obviously loves Star Trek, because that's what things are centered around. And we like to see what's gotten them into the hobby, as well as what they've got. And this is the rare occasion, well, not the rare occasion, but the first occasion that we have a guest that isn't one of the two of us.
I was going to say, I'm super excited about this guest. In fact, because he was so gracious, he allowed us to kind of move our schedule around a little bit. But I told you earlier that I'd be completely disappointed if this was the one guy I didn't get a chance to talk to. So
we already got him on the show. You don't need to suck up. Yeah. So Jim
I know.
appeared in the 712th episode of Star Trek. Ooh. Yeah, I had to throw out some ranking there.
I like that. I didn't realize the number, but that's outstanding.
Well, it took some memory alpha digging to pick that one up. So Mr. Relief Tactical Officer himself, how are you?
I am great, and I appreciate you guys inviting me on. I love talking Star Trek, and I love talking collectibles too when they're Star Trek related.
Yeah, I see stuff over your shoulder in your closet there.
I have stuff over my shoulder. There's a lot of Eaglemoss back there. There's a few other little collectibles, and I have a lot of phasers in my hand on my desk that we can talk about too. So
I will say one of my favorite part of when we did the fantasy draft was Jim being able to pull off the first pick, which was Leonard Nimoy, and then for his last pick was James T. Kirk, and he had the two figurines holding up for all to see. One of my favorite parts of that podcast that we did.
I love that because we got. To get those two guys was amazing.
No,
first and last.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
There you go.
Oh, there
great
he is.
picks, and
there he is.
Love that monster maroon.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to start off, even though this is a Star Trek podcast based on Star Trek, we'll say. We do like to check in and see, is there anything outside of Star Trek that you collect?
No. I thought about that. You're going to ask me that. And I have, I'm pretty confined in my Trek, my Trek narrow view. I mean, there's a few other things, DVDs, things like that, but nothing complete or complete that I collect. It's really all Trek.
No Los Angeles / Oakland Raiders / Las Vegas now.
I have a few Raiders items. Yes, when I was a kid, I had Star Wars, but I would hesitate to call any of that collectibles. But I collect cats. I have lots of cats. How about that?
Oh, there you go.
I have 3 cats.
So you collect the living. All right.
So obviously we are on a Star Trek podcast. So I'm going to ask the next question, which is, tell me about your Star Trek collection. That's the reason why we got you on here.
Exactly. I've realized this about myself early on. I'm a completist. So that's something else I collected. When I was in high school, early 20s, music was a big thing. So CDs, records, and that thing. But I'm a completist. So I was the kind of person that if I got into a band or like something, I bought it all. Not just, but I wasn't just going to listen to one album and be like, I don't know anything else. No, I need to know it all. So, that carries over to my collectibles, kind of.
You're totally speaking my language, because just ask Mike. I am completest.
Yep. So
to the nth degree.
So back in the day, the micro machines were something, but I was a little bit. I was in kind of that weird state where you're like, hey, I'm an adult now, and you're not doing that. But then you get older and then you go back. You kind of, wait, why did I ever stop that? Now I'm 50 and I'm more into it than I ever was. So when the Eaglemoss model started, I was like, holy moly. I mean, the thought that I can own a Zindi insectoid ship or some random, the Batrus freighter. I mean, it's insane that we have all these ships. So Eaglemoss was right off the bat easy to collect, and I wanted them all. And I've been collecting all those. There's one of my cats now, meowing. That was Book.
You know what's crazy too, Jim, with those Eaglemoss ships? It's like I can't even believe what they put in the magazine. The little magazines that they give you.
Detail.
I know. I'm like, some of these ships, like I've never even heard of, and I've seen every episode, and I'm like, I can't believe the detail they have in there.
I've said this many times. Of all the licensed official products in the history of Star Trek, the Eaglemoss models is the best one. It's by far. It's unbelievable that exists, and there's 250, it's probably almost 300 ships they've done now.
So now, being the completist that you are, do you get all of them? I get all of them. I don't get the XLs. But I've gotten all Discoveries, all the regular ships, and almost all of the special order ones, like that aren't the XLs, but like can't remember what. Like maybe I think Space Dock was one, but there's a few of those. So I've gotten most of those. There's a few that have come through, like the gold one. I was just like, I don't need that. I don't want that. The gold Enterprise version. So, and I'll tell you. So this is another part of my collectibles. I'm big on the IRL kind of in the real stuff, right? So if it's a prop, I don't care about it being a real prop, like on screen or anything, but just something that was on the show, something practical that is that feels like it's in universe is what I'm looking for. In universe. So like a gold Enterprise from Eaglemoss, that's not in universe. I don't really need that, but everything else I want. So in universe is my big thing, and that's kind of led me to my biggest collection. The one that I focus on the most that I like is my phaser collection. And prop collection.
So when you say in universe, well, I guess it doesn't matter now. I was going to say the Titan up until last episode of Lower Decks was not in universe. But
this is the best question, Mike. So I didn't get the Titan because I'm like, listen, I dig it. I like the books. I've read a lot of the books. I like the comics, but I like the show. I'm about the show. So I've read 50 books. I've read a ton of comics, but to me, it's about the show. So I was like, I'm not going to get the Titan. So I didn't get it. the day after the finale, I'm on the site. They're sold out.
Ordering
right?
it.
You can't get
Oh,
them right
man.
now. And I'm like, God got it. So I need to find the Titan now. That's one I need to figure out. I blew that because I should have known at some point the Titan was going to be in universe. But that is a great question, Mike, because that is exactly how my mind works. I was like, Titan? No, I'm okay.
I love it, Jay. You're like exactly like me. You're like to a T.
So funny.
Yeah. So, well, I guess the question's still yours, Jamie. Here.
Well, Mike, what got you into collecting Star Trek stuff? I mean, you talk about all these great things you have. What got you into it?
It's just that tangible, visceral feeling of having something inside the show. I just like anytime you see. I was into props, so I just like seeing props and getting props. And I think those first few Playmate phasers and communicators and tricorders and things they've done. Those kind of. Well, I don't think Playmate did tricorder, but those are the things that kind of got me into it. And then in the early days of eBay, trying to find like some guy selling a bat lift or which I have one.
Sweet.
But it was always kind of hit or miss because you'd find sometimes you get something and it just doesn't look right. Sometimes you get stuff on eBay, it looks great. So I have a bunch of that. So phasers are my focus, but I've got communicators, tricorders. I got a couple of pads right here that I'm holding up. So this one's nice. Like 20 years old. It's a Voyager one. It's awesome. It's really heavy duty metal.
Oh, that thing looks
This
great.
One's a 3D printed Enterprise one that's awesome, but super lightweight that I got like a year ago. So I got a couple of pads there. So that's kind of what got me into it in the early 90s. And then the phaser thing just kind of became like, I just want like as many different kinds as so I'm not a completist when it comes to like, I have to have every, TOS phaser that comes out, but I wanted to try to have like as diverse a phaser collection as I can of every phaser that's out there.
What is it about the phasers that makes you?
I hate guns, man. I'm a pacifist. I hate guns, but I don't know. The phasers are just cool. So there's something about them.
So I know for me, what got me into collecting stuff as a kid, and I mentioned this when Jamie interviewed me, was watching Encounter at Farpoint, the first time seeing that there was a comm badge that was being worn on the shirt. And, as a kid, like immediately I was drawing it, cutting it out and taping it to my shirt. And it was the first thing I ever bought at a convention was a comm badge pin. So is there an episode or one of the movies or something like that kind of provided the spark for you, or is it just the franchise in general?
No, I think it's kind of what you're saying. It was really that when TNG started to really get going in the early 90s. So that was the time of the spark. I can't think of a specific episode that did it, but you brought up comm badges and I was like, oh yeah, well, if comm badge is the same, I want to have like one of every kind at some level. And I have a box of the QMX ones behind me. And, and I actually haven't ordered all the fan sets now that they're getting into it. Is pretty cool. So I'll be trying to get all the different ones there that I don't have yet.
Well, yeah, and if you hold off until after the first of the year, they're really going full tilt with the magnet back ones.
I know. Now that they have the rights to the magnet ones, is like that's big time. That's super cool.
Well, and I don't know if you caught this too, but they went in with Anovos, and they're going to be doing the Monster Maroon badges coming out.
Oh yeah, I did see that. I did see that.
They got together with John Cooley on that. So
and that is
really
when
cool.
I don't have one of those from anybody.
Yeah.
So
yeah, me either.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. So you've passed the test of the Blessed Exchequer. You did present us with something to allow you to continue on. Now we'd like to take some time to talk about our friends at Science Division. They've made the world's first interactive tribble that you can control with your smartphone.
Jay and Kaylee are collectors too, so they've put all the love you'd expect from a fellow collector into their product.
Yeah, Jamie and I both have these tribbles. Well, Jamie has one for himself. I have one in my house that I paid for, but I don't get to use because it belongs in Emily's room. But regardless of that fact, when you download the K7 app, you can name your tribble, you can assign it to a ship, you can put it into the different modes that it has, such as at ease, on duty, and the watchdog mode, which Emily uses whenever she thinks I'm trying to get her tribble out of her room. But even with all of that, in the end, we know
tribbles are not dangerous.
And as an exclusive for our listeners, you can receive $5 off your very own tribble when you use the code Cyrano. That's CYRANO at checkout.
Science Division. Trouble's never been this fun. And we thank our friends at Science Division for sponsoring this week's show.
Well, the Celestial Auctioneers. And why are we bidding for our new lives?
The Celestial Auctioneers will select bribes for your admittance into the Divine Treasury. So you've already kind of touched on it, the something specific that you really focus on in your collecting. So tell us about your phaser collection.
Yeah, so I did talk about it. I can keep talking about it because I love my phaser collection. It started in the early 90s, like I said, with the Playmates ones, and then trying to just scour eBay and different sites in the mid 90s. It wasn't quite as prevalent as it is now, and just try to find some different things, which I did. I'll tell you when it really took off for me was when it was the late 90s at Star Trek Experience. Walking around the store there, they had like the art that they weren't on-screen replicas. They weren't like screen used replicas, but they were basically props made by the art department that were being sold at Star Trek Experience.
Oh, okay.
And they were, they're a little pricey. They're, more than $500. And those I just could not. The first couple of times you win, I'm like, okay. At some point, I was just like, I have enough money to buy one of those, and I'm going to do it. And that is this Jem'Hadar one you cannot get anywhere. You can get. I'm sure there's some 3D printed ones now, but this is one from the Experience, made by the Star Trek prop department. It's one of my pride and joys, to say the least.
That's awesome.
And I have a Romulan one as well. And they come with like the full display unit. So those were pretty great. And then from there, the Diamond Select ones were really, really good. So they did a lot of great prop stuff. And I got all of those.
Yeah, they did some really, for the time period, they did some good detail on their stuff.
Agreed. The Enterprise one is superb from early 2000s. The Starfleet assault rifle from Star Trek V is really good. They did a great job. I think that was the same company. Art Asylum's the other one. I always get I always say Diamond Select and Art Asylum. I get them conflated, but it's whichever one was doing the phasers. Right. I think they both did.
They're now ones. Interchangeable.
Right. Yep. So those were all great. And then, but I tell you what, in the last 5 years, it has gone to a different level, because now you've got these guys, and there's a guy in the Ukraine that I've gotten a number of phasers from, and they do these, replica props with light that light up and do the whole thing, and they're all 3D printed, and they do them like fast. So in the middle of Discovery season, they're like, "Hey, here's the new Discovery Section 31 phaser. Click, 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 buy." I'm getting that. So that's a really cool one. And I've gotten a couple from the Picard series, and yeah, those are the things that, I'd say at this point I probably have about 40 unique phasers, maybe a little less, maybe between 30 and 40 unique different types of phasers that I would consider are in universe. So not like miniature. I have a bunch of miniature ones too, but like ones that ostensibly could be in the show kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, Jim, you kind of talked a little bit about that. That gentleman, obviously, that you have a relationship in Ukraine. Any good stories? Because I know, to me, collecting a lot of times is the actual journey of acquiring whatever it is I want. It's like that. That's the thrill I get out of it. Any good stories of negotiating prices or getting full lots or anything like that?
I'm not good at that. I'll tell a couple of things. I remember the very first time I was ever at a Star Trek convention, and I was old enough to be like trying to like buy stuff, and it was like early 90s in Kansas City. I was probably like 25, 30 years old. And sometimes you're a little self-conscious, at least I was back then. Nerd culture was still not what it is today. And you're walking around and you really just want to buy the toys. But you're 25, 30 years old. You're like, so I remember I was looking at something and I knew I shouldn't open it, but I kind of like opened it to peek. And the guy behind the counter was just like, "Hey man, we don't open the toys." I just looked around, felt like everybody was looking at me. It was quite an embarrassing moment. That for some reason that always stood out, and a couple of my friends that were there to this day still say, "Hey man, we don't open the toys anytime." So that's good. But I'll tell you with the Ukraine guy, I don't, because you don't really, guys in Ukraine, so you have no idea. You the first time I bought it, I was like, I have no idea what I'm getting. It's you see the reviews, you're spending good chunk of change, and the box. I knew the box was on its way and it was going to take a couple of weeks, and it got here and I got a slip because our mail wasn't being delivered to our building. And so I had to go to our post office. And I'm telling you this, I'll make this story really short. The post office in my city in California, if you Google Playa del Rey post office and read the Yelp reviews of this post office, it is high comedy. You won't believe it. It's like there's this old guy who works there. He hates everybody. He's the saddest, grumpiest guy, and you have to go stand in line and wait and try to get him to try to find something for you. And I had to go like 3 times, just begging him to look in the back of his decrepit rundown. Like, I know it's here, man. He sent me to another post office. I came back. This took like 2 weeks. The last time I'm like, got the guy. And remember, and there's always 10 people in line, and they're always waiting for 2 hours, and everybody's miserable. I'm telling you, you Google the Yelp reviews of this post office, Playa del Rey, California. You will enjoy reading it. Anyway, he finally finds, I'm like, it's probably unmarked. It's probably, he comes back with this a shoebox size, completely wrapped in all black, taped up, really actually very well, nice, but it looked, it looked like a bomb. Anyway, it was my package. I got it. I took it home. It took me 30 minutes just to open the package because the guy sealed this up so tight. And actually, that was my Section 31 phaser. It was perfect. Anyway, that always rings in my head as a funny story because I was like, I finally ordered one of these things that I'm not going to even – I know it's in the back of this freaking guy's post office. But no, I'm not good at the negotiating. I'm a sucker. So I just like –
So if your first purchase from him was the Section 31 phaser, then most of your collection is before that.
Correct. But since then I've gotten 4 things from him. Section 31, a Beyond phaser. Oh, the Beyond phaser. I got the Picard Romulan double barrel phaser from the first season of Picard. It lights up. Super cool. Super cool. And I'm waiting. Actually, by the time this drops, I think it'll be here because I got an email the other day that it's on its way. So it won't be a spoiler because I will tweet it as soon as I get it. It's the Discovery Season 3 hand cannon is on its way.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Oh, man, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at it like this thing could be really dumb looking and stupid, but I'm going to roll the dice.
So does this guy post like an example picture of one that he's done? Okay.
Yeah, he's got a really good system. He basically says he's got a lot of photos. There's a lot of good feedback. He's in Ukraine. They're all 3D printed, and you have options. So it's like, this is, if you want it just printed out and painted, here's what it costs. If you want to add these different layers of electronics, here's what it costs. If you want to add a phaser stand to hold, here's what it costs. So, yeah.
Nice.
Okay, I'm going to tell one more story since hey, this is what this podcast is for. And I'm going to rip them because
I love it. Keep the stories coming.
I've got some, a couple of friends that work at Anavos, and they're good guys, and I know that no one's there is trying to, but everyone knows the stories of Anavos, right? I mean, these guys have incredible quality product, just the absolute worst customer service and delivery timelines. It's criminally bad, if I'm being honest. Like
2 to 3 years.
2 to 3. You pay them.
I almost was gonna bring it up when you were talking about it earlier. I said, I better not.
Yeah. So but this is funny. So, and I've ordered things from them that took 2 years to come. And part of me is like, I'm just going to order it. I'm never going to think about it. And then when it shows up in 2 years, I'll be happy. So one of those things was the Discovery phaser when they went on sale right at the beginning of Discovery. Mm-hmm. And it's a great phaser. And to their credit, I was in the first wave. I was one of the first orders. To their credit, the thing came in 4 months. Quality product. I will say the paint on it faded. They messed up the paint. I've tweeted with Mario Marrero, the prop master for Discovery, about what if I could have somebody paint this thing because all the yellow's faded. So basically, it's just a black phaser now. Still cool. I still like it. But part of the deal with Anavos, and this is just comedy at this point, is you're supposed to get a really nice phaser stand with it. So they tell you this is like 2.5 years ago now. The phaser stand, sorry, it's not done yet, so it's still coming. And so, after 6 months, you're like, you send them a note. Here's my order number. Is there any sign of this phaser stand? Oh yeah, we're still 2.5 years. And if I send them a note, it's like, oh, phaser stand, we're still working on it. Here's the deal. There's no way there's anybody still responsible for making this phaser stand. It's high comedy at this point. So ironically, I ordered a Discovery phaser stand from my Ukrainian dude. So that's coming in a couple of weeks. Literally almost 3 years. Sorry, 2018. No, I guess it's 2 years. All of 18, all of 19, all of 20. It's almost 3 years. I got the thing at the end of 17. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's unbelievable. I mean, Anavos, high quality product. It's just not worth it unless you have the time and money to do it and the patience.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, collectibles, Anavos, if you're listening. It's just, it's the phaser stand. Come on.
They know.
Now, I got a question. So, does it drive you crazy that you have a phaser stand from another distributor?
No,
that's something that would make me go berserk.
Jamie, when I was 25, yes, that would drive me crazy. I've gotten a lot more relaxed 30 years on from that. So, we're good. Awesome. I can deal with it. And now it's just a funny story. I mean, the phaser stand, I just laugh. And if it ever shows up, comedy.
Yep. So have you ever had yourself a situation, and it might not be, I have a hard time believing it would be a phaser story. So like Jamie and I have talked about, there's certain parts of our collection that we want and we've been searching for. And the only way for us to get it is to buy 4 other things that we don't really want with it. I'm guessing as a collector, you've run into that before.
Yes. Yeah, we've all done that. I'm trying to think of a specific example of that, but what I'm going to do, and I should have thought of this story before, so I'm glad you asked the question because now I'm thinking of it. the best story for me like that, and I actually have a blog post on trekranks.com if you want to read about it. It's actually pretty funny. When 2009 came out, it's been a long time since there's been any new Trek or any kind of product tie-ins and things. Those little dudes from Burger King were awesome. Oh. I mean, they looked good. They were well made. They all had a sound bite. And I was like, I am collecting every one of those damn things. So I would literally go to Burger King driving home from work, like 2 or 3 different Burger Kings, almost every day, always with like this made up story. Like, yeah, I need 2 kids meals for my kids. They're at home. My kids, I'm taking it home. And then I need one for me as well. So just, trying to collect in that sort of way. And anytime I ever have an interaction with somebody, what are your kids' names? Peter and Paul.
Ephraim.
How old are they? 6 and 7. I mean, literally, I always knew they were on to me because I was terrible at that. But the funny part of this is I must have gone 20 times or more to try to collect them all. Could not get the Prime Spock, which is obviously the one everybody wants, the great Spock one. And at the end, I finally, by the way, at one point I was at one and the guy just brought out the box of them and said, because he knew I'd been there like 10 times, he's like, hey, here's the box. Just dig through, see what you can find. I was like, okay. I'm like diving into the box. There's people buying stuff. So this last time I went through the drive-thru, the promotion was almost over and I could barely hear the guy through the bad microphone. And he didn't have he had a little bit of a difficult accent to understand. But I'm doing my bit. Yeah, I mean, if you have the Spock character at this point, I've lost all shame. I'm just like, if you have the old Spock character, I'll take that. We have little boy. Little boy. We have little boy. I'm like, what? We have little boy. Like, okay, yeah, great. Just put it in there. So I get there. He puts the thing in the bag. I start driving away. I look in the bag, and it's the little Spock. And I look at it. I'm like, God damn, it does look like a little boy. the guy was saying, we have little boy.
So did it look like the Spock from the animated series? Because I know you love the animated series.
No, it did not. Much. It looks so much better than that Spock.
Okay. All right. Just checking, Jim.
Anyway, that is a good example of trying to just do everything you can to collect it all.
That is because you didn't necessarily buy stuff you didn't need, but you did gain a lot of points probably on your cholesterol for that one. So
no, I did because I was buying those. If it was Happy Meals, I would have been cool because those are actually pretty good. But the Burger King is not good. Anyway, but I have like 6 Scotties. I mean, I give those away. So, anyway,
it's a Trek Ranks promotion. Well, we can move on to our award section of the program.
Okay, I'm excited about this.
So, Kivas Fajo Award, as you know, from the most toys, Data was the toy that eluded Kivas Fajo the most. So, what is the top collectible that eludes you from your collection?
By the way, I love these names. This is fantastic, and the Kivas Fajo Award is perfection. It took great effort to bring me here. Anyway, the top collectible that eludes me is my own fault. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it because it's fancy. Because I always feel like when I'm getting another phaser, it's like there's always room for one phaser. I can always put a phaser in a drawer. There's always room for one more phaser. There's not room for a phaser rifle. And I really want a phaser rifle. And at some point, that is going to happen. I have been very close to pulling the trigger on a phaser rifle many times.
So which phaser rifle?
My favorite would be, the one I would like the most is probably the First Contact.
Those are awesome.
Type 2, maybe phaser rifle. I think it is maybe Type 3. But the First Contact one is the one that's really good. First Contact and Insurrection. The Voyager one is good. I'm not a huge fan of the TNG era two-hander, so I probably wouldn't be too fired up about that. I would love the Discovery phaser rifle as well. That one's cool. So that's the collectible that I just haven't pulled the trigger on to get it, because I just look around and think I live in a small place. I'm like, I don't have room for a phaser rifle. That might be the one. That might be the tipping point for the first who I live with.
So where no man has gone before phaser rifle.
I would love that one. I'm a love classic sci-fi, so that one would be great. The Cage phaser is one of my favorites, so I would be more than happy to. And there's a guy who sells them at STLV every year, and I always look at it. But by the way, that one's twice as big as the other phaser rifles. So there's definitely no room for that.
I know. You need it. You need your own room for that.
Exactly.
All right, so that brings us to our next award, which is the Grand Nagus Award. So the most valuable item in your collection. So, Mr. Jim, what would be the most valuable item in your collection?
I think I spilled the beans on this. I was planning it, but I think my two favorites are the ones I got from Star Trek: The Experience. So the Jem'Hadar phaser pistol is a piece of beauty. It's absolutely fantastic. And the Romulan disruptor that I have also from STLV. They both come in really, really nice display cases that I've had now for 20 years, and they look like I got it yesterday, both of them. So they're really, really great condition. I love those two phasers, and most valuable, I think without much of a doubt, other than maybe I wonder how much those old phaser remote controls are going for. The old ones with the buttons from like the early 2000s. I've got 3 of those. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So those are the
Romulan one. Is that the green one?
It's basically the TNG Romulan.
Okay.
One with the handle.
Yep.
Around the grip. So.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
All right. Well, personally, this one is my favorite of all the awards. The Resican Flute Award, because I always think of Picard at the end of The Inner Light holding it tight to his chest. So the collectible that you have that has the most sentimental value to you.
Well, I love these questions. I love the breakdown. And I knew right away when I saw this question as one of them, I knew exactly what it was. And we haven't talked about it yet. And it's something that I consider to be a collectible, because it is collected right here in my memories forever, and it is my appearance on Star Trek, because that was basically collectible. I won a charity auction, which means I paid the most money and won the auction. So that's how that worked. And from the moment that I won that thing and realized that I had a chance to be on the show and how it all worked out, and that not only was, and again, when I got it, I realized all I'm really paying for is a chance to be in costume, walk around the sets, and maybe get the back of my shoe in a shot, because there's no promises. They don't have any requirement to make sure you're on screen or in any kind of certain type of scene. So the fact that that happened, and then I not only got to, do all that, but I got to sit on the bridge. I got to fire the phasers, and it was in an epic all-time episode of Star Trek, and not just precious cargo, as I like to say. So that, and I always get asked this because the first thing people ask me when we're talking about this in this context is, oh, did you get to keep the uniform? And I always say no,
of course not.
And I don't,
yeah.
And I never once thought I would, and I don't care. I don't want the uniform because I was on the show and I fired the phasers, and I get to think about that and have that memory forever. And that is for sure. I absolutely consider that a collectible for myself.
And I think going along with your thought process there, I mean, that is more than tangible too. I mean, we've talked about stuff that we can put up on display on our shelves and stuff like that. But I mean, shoot, not only do you have a story that centers around it, but I mean, anybody in the world can flip on Netflix and see you on TV. So
yeah,
you can go ahead.
No, that's what I was going to say. I mean, you're on physical media, I know several years ago, I went to a U2 concert in Boston, and it actually got released as a concert DVD, the actual night that I had went. I mean, you don't see me on any of the videos, but I always thought it was such a cool thing that I was at that show. That they did 4 nights in a row in Boston. I was on that show. Yep. But I mean, you have that tangible, hard media that you literally were there, and we can see it visibly.
Yeah, that's
great.
That's how I look at it too, because it also wasn't just. It's different if it. I actually might think about it differently in terms of collectible if I entered a raffle and I won the raffle or something. But I mean, when I was watching Star Trek in 1992 or heck 1972. I had always thought, man, wouldn't it be cool just to be that guy in the background for like one show? That would be, just to be able to do that, that would be incredible.
I mean, you could have been like Mick Fleetwood too, like with.
Well, true. I've talked about that too. Because the first thing they came back to me with, because again, once I won, I was just some dude that they had to service. So some PA, some assistant called me and said, "Hey, we got a spot. We need some aliens in an alien market. You would get made up, by the guys." And I hadn't really thought about that, but my first reaction was, I thought about it, like, oh, that would actually be cool. But then I was like, no, I'm gonna hold out just to see if I can get lucky and be on the bridge or be on a standing set or be in a Starfleet uniform. And so I remember I literally had made something up. I'm like, sorry, I'm working that weekend and can't get away. So just call me for the next one. And it worked out.
So I have a Jim Moorhouse collectible in my hand then.
There you go.
And it sits on my shelf.
That's right. Yep. That one's memorable.
Well, Jim, I mean, I'm sure I speak for Mike, but we thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. And like I said, I mean, you can just ask Mike how excited I was to do this interview with you. But where can people find you online if they're looking for you?
Well, awesome. And let me just say, my pleasure. I love, this is what I love to do, talk about Star Trek. And I do a lot of that over at Trek Ranks, the Trek Ranks podcast, and then also on Twitter at Enterprise Extras. So that's what I like to do, talk about the things that we love about Star Trek.
Sweet. Well, we are looking for collectors like Jim who'd like to be featured on the Divine Treasury. So hit us up on these locations to be able to potentially come on with Jamie and I.
So you can find us on Twitter at divine_treasury, on Instagram with the same handle, and obviously we're both on Facebook. And we can be found from time to time popping in on Camp Kittimer. So if you'd like to be on the show, direct message us on those platforms, and please make sure you send pictures or videos if possible.
And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you'll find video of the collections of mine and Jamie's. Sometimes we will even have video or pictures, like we just said, from our guests. And maybe from time to time, we'll even do an unboxing of a new piece of our collection. And who knows what else might come up. So, of listening to us talk about all the many things that we buy and put stuff all over our houses, and not just us, but all the guests that we bring in here, if that's not too much for you, subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are.
You can also support the Divine Treasury and the rest of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network by supporting us on Patreon. You get access to unedited recordings of every episode on the network, as well as other exclusive content and so many other awesome perks.
And if you'd like to become a producer on the network and get access to the raw audio for the Divine Treasury, you're not missing out on much, but you can still get it. Head over to patreon.com/Trek Geeks.
The Trek Geeks Podcast Network. No one talks Star Trek like we do. We'd also like to thank 5 Year Mission for allowing us to use their awesome music on this show. They're writing a song for every episode of the original series. And collectors, this isn't parody music. This is content based on the show itself. So go to 5yearmission.net, put some CDs in your cart, because we know in collecting, it's all about the physical media. It's not about the downloadable content. So you can pick up year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4, as well as The Trouble with Tribbles and Spock's Brain. Make 5 Year Mission a part of your collection today.
On our next episode, we look forward to talking to a friend of Jamie's, David Hazard, someone that he grew up with as a kid. We're going to talk with David about his collection and some of the cool drawings that he did over the years. Until then, this has been episode 3 of the Divine Treasury. The Divine Treasury, connecting through collecting.
Music for the Divine Treasury is provided by 5 Year Mission. They're writing an original song for each episode of Star Trek. Hear more of their music at 5yearmission.net. The Divine Treasury is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com, or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.